Did you ever wonder, what was the first primary weapon to be primed? Yeah, me neither, but the answer would be the Latron. Hey guys, hello and welcome back. As always, my name is Leyzar, and today we're going to be diving deeper into this Mastery Rank 10 primary weapon, the Latron Prime. I'm going to be covering a cheap build, something affordable that anybody can build, but of course we also have the classic endgame setup with a Riven. That being said though, please keep in mind that my builds and guides follow a new player friendly approach, simply because there's a lot of information here and I want anybody watching to understand how the weapon functions and how it should be built. So if you're a veteran of the game and already know most of this stuff, then please, bear with me. And with that out of the way, let's jump into the Latron Prime. Let's begin by having a look at how the weapon behaves without any mods equipped, and for that I'm simply going to be taking a couple of free shots. The Latron Prime is a rifle, a semi-automatic rifle, and you got 15 shots in a clip, after which you have this lengthy reload time. The accuracy for a rifle is pretty standard, 28.6, which means pinpoint accuracy for up to 30 meters, 50 meters, something like that. So as you can see, the Latron Prime is a very accurate weapon. However, you do gotta contend with the fact that it is a semi-weapon, and the recoil is not completely negligible either. Let's jump into stats to see precisely what we're dealing with. First of all, mod capacity 60 out of 60, and if you have a prime weapon, I hope you know this by now, but in case you don't, jump into actions and install the Orokin Catalyst in case your mod capacity is only 30 out of 30. The Orokin Catalyst can be found from alerts, invasions, or if you're lucky, from the daily sortie. You can also pay 20 plat to have one plugged in. Next, my weapon has been formatted a total of 5 times, but this was done only for the purpose of testing. For the weapon builds I'm recommending you guys, Freeforma should do it. The accuracy, like I stated before, is 28.6, and this is pretty much par for the course when it comes to assault rifles. It is a pretty accurate weapon, and the bullets for the most part will land exactly where you aim. Critical chance is nice at 22%, and the multi is outstanding at 2.8x. Fire rate of 4.17 with a magazine of only 15 and a reload of 2.4, and this is the weapon's biggest weak point. You got plenty of power in the Latron Prime from all points of view. What you don't have is usability, but more on that a tad later. Riven dispo of 3 out of 5. The Latron family, I think, has 3 members. You got the Wraith, the Prime, and the normal version, and apparently they're quite popular considering that dispo is right smack in the middle. Status chance 26%, which again is pretty good, and the default damage we got impact, puncture, and slash, and the highest amount by far is going to be puncture. Now, it would have been a bit more preferable for it to be slash, but puncture from my point of view is one of the best, if not the best physical types in the game, because it deals extra damage to heavily armored targets. While the status proc itself, you guys may see it as underwhelming. It will make the enemy deal less damage to you, but in high level missions and when dealing with high level enemies, you're gonna be glad they're dealing less damage to you. In any case, enough dribble drabble, let's start slapping on some mods, starting with mandatory mods. Serration 165% extra damage. What about heavy caliber? Is it any good? Of course it's good. 165% extra damage. How can it not be good? Unfortunately, it does nuke your accuracy down to 15.5. Now, this doesn't make a huge difference for the initial bullet you fire, but it makes a big difference for the multi-shot we're gonna put on the weapon. I do not recommend you sacrifice the accuracy on the Latron Prime. Next, let's go into multi-shot, the best thing on mostly everything. Split chamber 90% and vigilante armament 60%, totaling 150%. That means a guaranteed second bullet with each and every shot and a 50% chance at a third bullet. Also, you have that set bonus, 5% chance to enhance critical hits from primary weapons, and the Latron Prime does have a hefty, a decent amount of crit chance, so you're gonna be seeing some crit ups. Then again, you're not really firing a whole lot of bullets with the Latron, so you're not gonna see a huge amount of crit ups. It's nice that the set bonus is there, but don't give it a second thought. Next, let's go to crit chance and crit damage. Like we stated earlier, the weapon is quite capable of critting, so point strike together with vital sense. Critical chance of 55% and a multi of 6.2x with vital sense alone. Now that is definitely impressive. The Latron Prime can be built one of two ways. You can either go for an elemental build or you can go for a crit bleed build, and we're gonna showcase both and you guys get to pick whatever you prefer. First, an elemental build. An elemental damage should always be applied on a weapon depending on circumstances. Where are you going? Who are you shooting? For example, if you're going up against the infested, there's a lot of them, so I would recommend AoE weapons heavily modded into heat. Though keep in mind that if you're going for something like an endurance run and you're gonna be seeing high level infested, their elite units are vulnerable to corrosive damage, so bear that one in mind. If you're going up against Corpus faction, then I would recommend you build gas or toxin, as it bypasses their shields entirely and deals damage to their health. Though keep in mind that some Corpus units underneath their shields have alloy armor, so radiation in some cases is definitely not a mistake. If you're going up against the Grineer, these are considered the toughest targets in Warframe. They have two armor types, alloy, which is weak once again to radiation, and ferrite armor, which is weak to corrosive damage. Against Grineer, more often than not, your safest bet is to build corrosive, and corrosive is one of the strongest elemental combos in game, next to viral. So electricity and toxin. Should we go for the 90% mods or for the dual stats or the 60-60 mods? Well, you do have a pretty hefty status chance and the 60-60 mods constantly perform better. But if you want to go for a more brute strength approach, then go for the 90 mods. There's a general rule in Warframe which is not correct 100% of the time, but it states something like this: if you're going 100 under, go for the 90 mods, 100 over, then go for the 60-60 mods. High voltage, 60% electricity and 60% status chance. If you don't have this one, it is farmable from the game. The mission is called Nilgar, the planet Eris. You gotta find all the free secret caches, then upon extraction you got a 5% chance of getting this one, or Shell Shock, which is the exact same thing, only for shotguns. You will be needing both of them. The grind on Nilgar is pretty crappy. I have 50 runs there and I haven't seen high voltage or Shell Shock, so you can hit up the trade chat and pay the fine. Unfortunately, this one currently on PC goes for about 40 to 50 plat, and Shell Shock is even more expensive than that. Since I got my electricity, next we're gonna go to Toxin. Malignant Force is a lot more affordable and easier to farm. From Corrupted Vor in the Void, from the trade chat, 5 to 10 plat and not a cent more. We still have one more mod slot left on the weapon, and this is what I like to call an option slot. But before we go any further, did you know that Impact, Puncture and Slash, the physical types, have a 4 times greater chance of proccing over elemental types such as Corrosive? So when you're looking at the physical types, try to multiply them just visually times 4 to get the correct proc pecking order. So in fact, my puncture is somewhere around, I don't know, 1700, something like that. So it's way higher than the corrosive. If I was to build more corrosive on the weapon, it would increase corrosive's chance to be applied on a status proc. But for now, let's outline a couple of additional options. First of all, everybody loves punch through, right? With Metal Auger, 2.1 meters worth of punch through. Your bullets will be going through the initial target and keep traveling for 2.1 meters. And while I'm fully aware that punch through should work differently in Warframe, check the link in the cards now for a demonstration on how punch through actually works. This is not your only option, however, you can also go for shred, fire rate and punch through, especially if you guys have prime shred. I don't have that one yet, so boo-hoo me. 30% fire rate plus 1.2 meters worth of punch through. Or you can also alleviate some of the problems, some of the usability issues this weapon has. Cater each and every weapon to your own individual playstyle. So what are the problems? First of all, the magazine is fairly small at 15 for a reload of 2.4. So you can either decrease the reload time or you can increase the magazine capacity. Let's see, what can we do? As far as magazine capacity goes, you can go for Wildfire magazine capacity and heat fully maxed out. That will give you 60% heat. This one is really good on the Lanka, but to be honest, I never really find myself using mods such as this one. As for that reload time, you can go for Prime Fast Hands or the normal Fast Hands. To be honest, I never really wasted my ducats on Prime Fast Hands, but if you have it, use it if you so desire. For now, we're simply going to be adding more corrosive to the weapon with Infected Clip or Stormbringer, bringing my corrosive to 1250. It's still number 2 on the proc pecking order after puncture, but at least now it has a higher chance of it being chosen when the weapon procs. So this is going to be our first build, and we're going to test the weapon out like this. Now, just for the record, I am not recommending necessarily this build. This is just a demonstration in case some of you guys were wondering what the weapon can do with a corrosive build. Now let's go for straight headshots. As you can see, a full clip is not enough to take out one of these high-level targets. Now that to me, for a prime weapon, for an MR10 weapon, is a tad disappointing, a tad underwhelming. The problem is not the status chance, nor the crit chance, nor the crit multi. It's simply the fact that I am firing very few bullets at my target. I am getting consistent corrosive procs, as you saw. And like 70% of the time, you're gonna be able to take out your target. And by the way, the orange crits are from Vigilante Armaments. Terrific mod. If you don't have that one, head on over to see this. In 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes, you're gonna be able to get one. If you wanna buy it, pay no more than 5 plat. That to me is mediocre performance at best when it comes to an MR10 weapon, but thankfully there is hope for the Latron Prime, for the old Latron Prime, which by the way was brought in update 8, but we gotta go to a completely different build. This is gonna be a crit bleed build, and I fully loaded out and I'm gonna explain exactly how this one works. First of all, the mandatory mods: Serration, Vital Sense, Point Strike, Split Chamber, and Vigilante Armaments. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not calling Vigilante Armaments mandatory, but in the case of the Latron Prime, it really does work quite well. Multi-shot especially powerful for it, because once again it doesn't fire that many bullets. Our slashes will not be coming through the weapons in a slash value because it's simply too low. Even if you were to add Fang Fusillade, it still wouldn't overtake the high amount of puncture this weapon has. So it's gonna come from Hunter Munitions. 30% chance to apply a slash status to an enemy on critical hits. 55% chance, but we will amplify that with Argon Scope to get even more slashes out of Hunter Munitions. Bladed rounds is here because once again this is a crit bleed build. Bladed rounds will give me more damage on impact, of course, because the critical damage value will be a lot higher. Again, 120% is the same amount as Vital Sense, but it will also of course increase the value of the slashes. And we're going to be testing the weapon out like this. This is the build I'm recommending for you guys if you have Argon Scope. Bladed rounds is not an issue, that one is cheap, but Argon Scope is still expensive. And don't worry about it, I got a cheaper variation to show you guys after this one. So once again, for headshots, keep in mind that right now I do not enjoy the benefit of bladed rounds, but as you can see, the target is bleeding out quite nicely. And now I got my buff from bladed rounds, so the value of the crit damage went a lot higher. Take a look at the value of the bleeds. Now that is pretty good. And as you can see, this build works a whole lot better than an elemental build. You gotta kind of bypass somehow the usability issues of this weapon. Honestly, it simply feels dated. For a game that has something like the Ignis Wraith or the Amprax, using the Latron Prime simply is a tad underwhelming. But this is subjective again, this is only my point of view. So if you want a slash build, this is the way to go with Argon Scope and of course bladed rounds. This is a way you can go, but we can also make the same slash build with a viral damage variation for it. And for that we're going to be dropping the expensive mod Argon Scope and bladed rounds so we can make viral damage on the weapon. Viral damage is the elemental combo between cold and toxin. Why do we build viral damage with slash anyway? Well, that's pretty simple. The status application of viral will reduce the maximum health of a target to 50% for the duration of the viral effect. So in a way, for that time, your slashes will be dealing double damage, especially if the target dies while under the effects of viral. The disadvantage to a viral build is that sometimes the viral application slips off the target and your target's health, boom, goes back to 50% or something like that, and you have to reshoot it again. There goes your DPS and so on and so forth. But in any case, let's build that viral. Cryo rounds, we're gonna go for the 90 mods over the 60 mods because again, I'm not interested in 1,000 viral procs like I am in corrosive, for example, because I can reduce more and more armor. I only really need 1-2 good viral procs on the target, and in this case, there is no point to go for the 60 mods. Got my cold, and of course we're gonna go to toxin. If you have prime cryo rounds, go for prime cryo rounds. And we're gonna be testing the weapon out like this. On this build, nothing is expensive. None of those mods are expensive, fairly easy to get, cheap, and only Serration, I believe, takes a bit of endo to max out. Take a look at that. Viral app on the target, absolutely murdering it. Yes, I don't have the same values, okay? I don't have the same slashes or the crit damage, but as you can see, as long as the viral application is on my target, I am absolutely murdering it because once again, it is getting its health reduced to 50% for the duration of the viral app. And I can kill a target in roughly 10 bullets, something along those lines. Which one is better? Well, to be honest, I honestly feel that the viral setup is better for the Latron Prime. Sometimes I don't get a viral app, and that's a little bit sucky, but most of the time, as you can see, there is the viral proc is pretty consistent. And this is the build I'm going to be recommending to you guys. If you have Argon Scope, then sure, you can go for more crit damage because I know you love big numbers just like I do. But if you don't, a viral setup such as this is the way to go. Now there's one more thing, of course, we got a Riven for this one. I rolled it a couple of times, bought it for, no, I actually received it for free. I think Latron Rivens are something around 20, 30, 40 plat unrolled. This one is a Critatis and it's got critical chance, critical damage and minus puncture. Why, mama? If it was minus slash, minus impact, minus anything else, it would have been so good, but it's minus puncture, and I hate losing that puncture. If this was an elemental setup, and I was looking to proc more corrosive, for example, then I would have been glad that my chance to proc puncture would have been reduced, but as it is now, it is a DPS loss. But it's not all that terrible. The positive stats more than make up for it. And as you can see, this is a full crit bleed build with Argon Scope and bladed rounds. The Riven took the spots of Hunter Munitions. And we're going to be testing the weapon out like this. This is still a dispo free, so there should be a pretty hefty difference. Once again for headshots. No bladed rounds buff, by the way. And I absolutely destroyed that target. And this is with bladed rounds active. Once again, hit a target till about 50%, then watch the bleeds do the magic. The value of the bleeds, considering this is an assault rifle, or rifle as the wiki describes it, are absolutely outstanding. Look at that, did you see that? That was a 10,000 bleed. Absolutely bloody glorious. With any bleed build, where you kind of gotta be patient and you gotta play to the build strengths. You gotta hit a target a couple of times, then run away, hide, hit another target, and so on and so forth. Now, if there's a guy with an Amprax or an Ignis Wraith, he's gonna completely murder your targets, but in high-level content, when you're actually gonna see levels 120 and so on and so forth, you're gonna be glad you have a slash build, and I do recommend it. Even though I enjoy corrosive builds a whole lot more. Now, let's pump up everything with Warframe buffs just to see how much damage we can get out of this puppy. Mirage. Lady Mirage Prime, that is. And let's check out what kind of buffs she's got. Energy Siphon, no, that will simply not do. What we will equip is called Rifle Lamp, and that will mean 27% extra damage to rifles. This is an aura, so everybody in your party will be receiving this benefit, and it is stackable times 4. Next, let's have a look at Arcanes. Arcane Rage, on headshot 10% chance for plus 120% damage to rifles for 16 seconds. Now that 10% chance might not seem like a lot, but it's plenty, it's enough. I don't recommend you double stack Arcane Rage, as you will not be getting 240% extra damage, you're simply getting the 20% chance instead of the 10% chance. And this one is farmable from the third Eidolon down on Cetus. Arcane Acceleration, absolutely, why not? Unfortunately, this only means you're going to be bumping into that long reload time of 2.4 seconds. You can even go for something like Arcane Avenger, 30% critical chance bonus additive after, and that, for me, in this case, will mean more orange crits, as I already have a 100% critical chance. And we're going to go with Avenger. Respawn the exact same targets one more time, but of course this time I'm gonna let them hit me so I can get my buff from Arcane Avenger, and of course we're also gonna be using Mirage's buffs. Her third ability for a massive damage increase as well as her clones. And let's go to town and see exactly what the Latron can do. As you can see, the whip, wow, the bleeds, 20,000, that is absolutely bloody glorious. There's not a question of power here, there's plenty of power to be had out of the Latron Prime. Look at that, you're even into one-shot territory if you're lucky enough to get the right slash proc. Look at that, that was a one-shot 25,000 bleed on that target. Now that is definitely impressive. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of usability here, and sometimes you simply gotta mod a weapon for usability. That is simply the smarter idea when it comes to the Latron. I honestly don't recommend this weapon. I am sorry to say, I know this looks very, very impressive, but I cannot recommend a weapon that I simply don't enjoy playing. The Latron Prime feels dated, obsolete. When I have weapons such as the Ignis Wraith or the Amprax, or never mind the AoE weapons, I have a whole lot of assault rifles that are simply more fun and comfortable to use than the Latron. It's got plenty of power, but it doesn't have the usability. It's simply old. And that's pretty much gonna do it for the review. As always, my name has been Leyzar. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like, favorite, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed the content. If you have any feedback for me or would like to request a specific weapon review, then by all means, leave it in the comment section down below. I can't realistically promise you that it will be done by next time or even within a week, because these reviews do take quite a bit of time. You can also find me on Twitch, Facebook, Twitter, all the usual places. Until next time, my friends. Bye bye.